Dance with evil. The city did not sleep. It decayed in silence. Neon letters flickered without purpose, like the twitch of a dying nerve. Concrete towers leaned against each other, their windows blind, their surfaces tattooed with rust and graffiti. The air smelled of burnt copper, old smoke, and rain that never fully arrived. In this place, people no longer traded coins or paper. They traded memories. Cale knew the rhythm of this market better than his own pulse. He walked the narrow alleys of the enclave with a face that belonged to no one. His eyes were restless, scanning for shadows behind shadows, but his gait was calm, almost elegant. He was a broker of stolen lives, a smuggler of sensations. Laughter, heartbreak, the taste of summer fruit from a century ago. Everything had value if it could be sealed inside a capsule and sold like contraband fire. Tonight, his pocket carried 6 capsules, each glowing faintly like captured fireflies. They pulsed against the fabric of his coat, warm and tempting. He avoided looking at them. To look was to remember, and memory was poison to those who trafficked it. He was not supposed to feel. At the edge of the market, beneath the skeletal remains of a railway bridge, the buyers waited. A pair of sisters, pale, dressed in synthetic velvet. They whispered in unison, their eyes reflecting the capsules before Cale even revealed them. "You have what we asked for," they said, as if one voice were split across 2 mouths. Cale nodded. His hand slipped inside his coat, retrieved the capsules, and lined them on a slab of stone. 6 small orbs, each with its own glow. Blue for joy, amber for nostalgia, crimson for lust, silver for grief. He did not care for their colors. To him, they were weight, risk, danger pressed into glass. The sisters leaned forward, their lips trembling as though they might kiss the orbs. "Yes," they whispered, "this will do." Payment came in fragments of code, written on thin plastic wafers. Not money, not food, but access. Short-lived keys to restricted archives of the old world. Cale never used them himself, but his clients, higher, hungrier, paid in scraps of power. He gathered the wafers and slipped them into his coat. The sisters clutched their glowing prizes, retreating into the skeletal dark. A deal finished. Another line on the map of his invisible survival. But as Cale turned to leave, a voice stopped him, low, metallic, touched with echo. "Your hands are quick," the voice said, "too quick for a man who pretends to crawl among rats." Cale froze. The voice came from behind the corroded columns. A figure stepped forward, tall, clad in a black coat that shimmered with faint circuitry. His face was partially obscured by a mask of fractured glass, reflecting Cale's own startled features back at him. "I've watched you for weeks," the stranger continued. "Your trade feeds on scraps. But scraps belong to corporations, whether you admit it or not. You carry what they want, and what they want, they will have." Cale's instinct was to run. He had lived too long by knowing when to vanish, when to dissolve into the labyrinth of alleys. But something in the figure's stance, calm, patient, deliberate, told him escape was already denied. "What do you want?" Cale asked. His voice was steady, though his throat ached. The glass mask tilted, reflecting the faint glow of the capsules still lingering in Cale's pocket. "Partnership," the stranger said. "You will deliver to us instead of vermin. Your profits will double. Your life will continue. Refuse, and your veins will soon forget the warmth of blood." The words were not shouted, not cruel. They were delivered as fact, inevitable as rain. Cale felt the market shift around him. The air seemed heavier, pressing against his skin. He had known others who fell into the orbit of corporate emissaries. Men and women drawn into contracts sealed not with ink, but with silence. None of them had returned whole. Some had vanished entirely. And yet, he also knew his own shelf life was shrinking. Smugglers do not grow old. They end in alleys with empty pockets, or in vaults where their stolen memories burn them from within. Maybe this stranger was not a threat. Maybe he was the next step in a dance Cale had already begun. "Partnership," Cale repeated. The word tasted bitter. What does that mean? The figure in the glass mask leaned closer. His voice softened, intimate. "It means survival. You will carry memories not for broken sisters in velvet, not for dreamers who wish to taste false summers. You will carry what matters, corporate memories, fragments of the old empire, data that could ignite or smother entire enclaves. Dangerous, yes, but profitable beyond imagination." Cale's hand trembled against his coat. The capsules inside pulsed, as if sensing the shift in fate. He imagined them breaking, flooding him with borrowed lives, drowning him in feelings not his own. He imagined himself collapsing beneath the railway bridge, another body feeding the city's hunger. Instead, he drew a breath and said nothing. The stranger's mask reflected his silence. Then a small motion, the offer of a card, black, blank, cold. "When you are ready," the voice murmured, "you will know how to use this." Cale took the card, though his fingers recoiled from its chill. When he looked up again, the stranger was gone, swallowed by the dark. The night returned to stillness, but Cale knew stillness was an illusion. Something had shifted, something had begun. Cale wandered through the city like a shadow unmoored from its body. The black card weighed heavy in his pocket, though it had no true weight. He could feel its edges against his ribs, sharp as a secret. At night he dreamt of it. He saw corridors of glass and steel, endless reflections of himself, each holding a different past. Some versions laughed, others screamed. One lay still, throat cut, card clenched in a dead hand. The enclave did not care for his nightmares. Its hunger remained the same. Traders still whispered in the alleys, seeking capsules to dull the emptiness. Children still begged for artificial warmth, paying with stolen fragments of their own short lives. Cale delivered, because to stop delivering was to vanish. Yet the words of the stranger followed him. Corporate memories, fragments of the old empire. He told himself he would ignore it. He had survived this long by avoiding every rope the corporations threw into the dark. Rope was never a rescue. Rope was a leash. Still, he carried the card with him wherever he went. One night, while pouring cheap whiskey into a cracked glass, Cale turned the card over in his hands. Black, featureless. It did not bend or scratch. It seemed to breathe, as if it carried its own pulse. He pressed it to the table. The wood beneath it flickered with faint lines of code, symbols that shifted faster than he could read. For a moment he thought the table itself remembered something. Then the light died, leaving him in silence. He understood. This was not a card. It was a key. The following evening he took the risk. The card guided him, not by words, but by instinct, pulling him through alleys and across skeletal bridges. The city's neon seemed to dim around him, as if reluctant to illuminate the path. Eventually, he reached a door hidden in the underbelly of a collapsed tower. No handle, no lock, just smooth steel. Cale pressed the card against it. The metal rippled like disturbed water. A seam opened. Darkness invited him inside. The interior smelled sterile, almost surgical. Lights hummed overhead, revealing a chamber of glass cylinders. Each cylinder held liquid. Each liquid held shapes, human, almost human, blurred by the weight of preservation. Faces half-formed, bodies unfinished, eyes closed as though in sleep. Wires ran into their skulls, pulsing faint blue. Cale felt his throat close. These were not people. These were vessels, empty shells waiting for memories. A voice rose from the shadows, calm, familiar. "You came." The glass-masked figure stepped forward, coat glimmering with circuitry like veins under skin. He stood with the stillness of someone who had waited a long time, certain of the outcome. "What is this?" Cale whispered. His words broke against the silence of the room. "This is continuity," the stranger said. "The corporations do not die, they molt. Flesh decays, but memory remains. You will help us carry it." Cale turned his gaze to the cylinders. Each face, though incomplete, stirred something in him. They were not strangers. He recognized gestures, shapes of mouths, remnants of expressions. He realized with a shiver he had seen them before, flickering in the capsules he once smuggled. These were not random containers. They were built from stolen fragments of lives already sold in the alleys. "You harvest them?" Cale said. His voice was hoarse. "You buy back the memories we trade, stitch them into new bodies?" The mask tilted. "Survival has a price. Would you deny humanity its continuity?" Cale's laugh was bitter, sharp. "This isn't humanity. This is theft pretending to be resurrection." The figure approached, each step measured. "Philosophy will not protect you. Look at yourself, Cale. You traffic in the same theft. You make your living feeding the hunger of those too weak to face emptiness. The difference is scale. You are already one of us. You only refuse to see it." The words cut deeper than threat. Cale wanted to deny them, but he remembered the faces of his buyers, the sisters in velvet, the addicts trembling with anticipation. He remembered their hunger, the way they clutched capsules as though life itself were contained within. He had fed that hunger. He had thrived on it. The stranger raised a hand, palm glowing faintly with embedded circuits. A cylinder beside him stirred. The liquid bubbled. The half-formed body within twitched, mouth opening soundlessly. "We offer you more than survival," he said. "We offer meaning. You will not die a rat in the alleys. You will dance with us. You will become essential." Cale stared. His chest ached. For the first time in years, He allowed himself to feel the weight of choice. He could walk away, return to the enclaves, to whispers and alley trades, to the slow erosion of self. Or he could step forward, into the machinery of survival, become another cog in a wheel that spun endlessly over bones. He thought of the capsules in his coat, their faint glow against his skin. Lives stolen, packaged, sold. He was not innocent. He was not clean. Maybe he had never been. The glass mask reflected his trembling face. "What must I do?" Cale asked. The stranger's reply was soft, final. "Bring us what you steal. Not fragments of joy for beggars. Bring us the memories that still burn, the ones that matter. And in return, we will give you a place among us." The room seemed to tighten around him, as though the cylinders themselves listened. Cale nodded, though the gesture felt like surrender. Outside, the city continued to decay. Inside, something darker had claimed him. Days blurred. Kyle moved through the enclaves like before, but the rhythm had changed. His pockets still held capsules, warm and glowing, but they no longer belonged to him. Each orb was marked, invisible threads binding it to the chamber beneath the tower. He was no longer smuggling for addicts or dreamers. He was harvesting. The sisters in velvet found him again. Their pale hands trembled as they reached for the capsules, hungry for more fragments of other lives. Kyle let them see the orbs, let them almost taste the light, then closed his hand and withdrew. "Not for you anymore," he said. Their eyes widened in unison, confusion giving way to rage. "You betray us?" Kyle turned and walked away. He did not look back when their voices broke into shrieks. His feet carried him forward, steady, yet inside him something tore. These alleys had once defined him. Now they rejected him, or perhaps he rejected them. Each delivery to the chamber carved a new scar. The black card pulsed like a second heart, guiding him through hidden paths, pulling him closer to the glass-masked stranger and the rows of waiting vessels. He would arrive, lay the capsules upon a steel tray, and watch as machines drained their light into liquid, feeding the unborn shells. He never asked whose memories they were. He no longer dared. But the faces haunted him. As the vessels filled, their features sharpened, their mouths twitched, their eyes rolled beneath closed lids. They looked less like strangers and more like echoes of people Kyle once brushed against in alleys, in markets, in fleeting trades. A laugh he once sold returned to him as a mouth curved in sleep. A scream he once swallowed glimmered in the tremor of a jaw. One evening, while the chamber hummed with quiet machinery, Kyle confronted the figure. "These people," he said, voice strained, "they were alive once, and now you're sewing them back together with scraps. What are they when they wake? Who are they?" The glass mask tilted, catching the sterile light. "They are continuity. They are the future wearing fragments of the past. Does the name matter when survival is the only truth left?" Kyle's hands clenched. "You call it survival. I call it theft." The figure moved closer, coat shimmering faintly. "Then why do you keep coming back, Kyle? Why do you carry the card? Because you understand? Without us, your world collapses into dust and silence. With us, there is still movement, still memory. You may hate the shape of it, but it is a dance, and you are already moving." Kyle wanted to strike him, to shatter the mask and reveal the flesh beneath. But he knew that beneath glass was only another mask. Maybe endless masks, one after another, until nothing human remained. That night, Kael lingered longer than usual in the chamber. The vessels stirred around him, their breath bubbling faintly in liquid. For a moment, he imagined stepping into one of them, abandoning his skin, his face, his hunger, a rebirth, an erasure. But when he touched the glass, the body shuddered. Its eyes snapped open. They were not blank, they were his. Kael recoiled, falling against the steel floor. The liquid stilled, but the vision did not leave him. His own face, duplicated, waiting to replace him. He realized then the truth. He was not only a smuggler, he was a donor. Every capsule he delivered carved him thinner, hollowed him out, until there would be nothing left but a shell to copy. He stumbled from the chamber, the black card burning in his pocket. The city greeted him with its familiar rot, its neon scars. Rain hissed against ruined pavement. Kael walked until his legs trembled, until alleys blurred and voices became static. He tried to rid himself of the card, throwing it into a sewer grate, burying it beneath rusted metal. Yet each dawn it returned, pressed cold against his ribs, as though it grew from his flesh. He understood now. There was no partnership, there was only consumption. He was being devoured, memory by memory, until the dance ended with him hollow and some other Kael breathing in glass. Still, he continued the trades. Not because he wished to, because the card compelled him, because the dance had no pause. One night, carrying capsules that glowed brighter than any before, he paused on the railway bridge where it all began. The sisters' voices echoed in his skull. The stranger's calm words wrapped around him like chains. Below, the city pulsed with faint neon, a corpse pretending to breathe. Kael looked at the capsules in his hand. Blue for joy, amber for nostalgia, crimson for lust, silver for grief. They pulsed against his palm, alive, whispering to be broken open, to flood him with everything he had denied himself. If he consumed them, he would vanish into someone else. If he delivered them, he would vanish into the corporations. Either way, Kael dissolved. The night wind tugged at his coat, his eyes closed. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine another life. Not smuggler, not vessel, not partner to shadows. Just a man, unburdened. But that life was as false as the capsules he carried. He opened his eyes. The city stared back, hollow and endless. The dance would continue. Whether he stepped left or right did not matter. The music was already playing.